Five things became abundantly clear when the Sox were swept by the Kansas City Royals over the weekend. I'll discuss what they are next on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of Southside Showdown, part of the Fansided Network. You can check out my written content at southsideshowdown.com, and also cover Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox. Also follow or subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to turn on those notifications on the YouTube channel. Well, the White Sox kicked off their post-All-Star break portion of the schedule, getting absolutely dominated by the Kansas City Royals. You know, that team that was worse than the Sox last year. You know, the Sox lost 101 games last year, and the Royals were even worse. Turns out all you needed to do is invest in starting pitching and make sure you draft a stud positional player, and eventually things will turn around. The Sox were outscored 17-3 in this series, and five things became very clear that I want to discuss in the first segment. And then yesterday was the release of Bob Nightingale's USA Today column, where it also serves as another way the Sox front office is leaking out information about trade rumors. I'll discuss what Bob had to say this week in the second segment. And finally, it is Monday, so let's do a Minor League Monday report. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Well, five things became clear to me after the Sox were just taken to the woodshed by the Royals. And I'm going to introduce them, and then let's go over each one of them. So the first is the Sox need to get a foundational player like Bobby Witt Jr. I'm not saying that they need to go get Bobby Witt Jr. He's locked up and signed for the Royals. He's going to be their face of their franchise for the next decade. But the Sox need to get a player like that, an impact foundational bat. And they might have missed a chance to get someone with that talent in the draft, so they might have to use the trade market. And that means they might have to leverage Garrett Crochet to get that type of bat. Second, there's a very good chance the Sox reach 80 losses before they reach 30 wins. Third, Drew Thorpe continues to provide hope that he can anchor the starting rotation once the Sox trade Garrett Crochet, and I'll get into why, again, they might have to do that to get that Bobby Witt Jr. impact-type player in a second. Fourth, Tommy Pham played like he wanted to stay in Kansas City since there's rumors that the Royals like him and are interested in trading for him. And fifth, why are Chris Flexen and Pham still on this team? The Sox need to move these guys ASAP, and I'll discuss why in a moment. So let's first get to the White Sox pitching staff struggled to get Bobby Witt Jr. out. He went 9 for 11 with a walk, homer, 4 runs scored, and 2 RBIs. I mean, he absolutely destroyed the White Sox pitching staff. And he's a big reason the Royals have gone from being worse than the White Sox last year to 10 games over 500 and holding down the final wild card spot in the AL playoff race. And I confirmed it with the Kings of Kaufman, part of the Fansided Network, site experts Jacob Milham and Mike Gillespie. I was texting with them over yesterday. The Royals put a lot of their free agent money into their starting rotation in the offseason. And they just dominated the White Sox. But having Witt Jr. leading the way offensively is a big reason why they've been able to turn things around. I mean, he's got a .337 average, .958 OPS, and 17 home runs. And I get he's a unicorn with the way that he has all 5 tools and can put them all together to become a foundational impact player. But the Sox had a chance to draft a high schooler in Connor Griffin, who has been discussed on previous episodes about his special talents. And instead, the Sox went with pitcher Hagen Smith, who, don't get me wrong, he has a chance to be an outstanding pitcher, and the Sox are choosing to focus draft capital instead of money into the rotation. That's how they're kind of being different from the Royals. Whereas we were all mocking them for signing all the bad former Royals players and trying to be like the Royals, the Sox are at least saying, hey, we're not going to pay for pitching. Let's draft it. But what this means, though, is by passing on a guy like Connor Griffin or, say, J.J. Weatherholt from West Virginia, it might mean the Sox have to trade Garrett Crochet and even Luis Robert Jr. to get that type of stud hitter. And you could say, hey, the Sox have got that in LRJ, but injury issues has only let him play one full season to show that he has that type of impact. I mean, he missed 2 months this year, and he hasn't really gotten out of the gate since he's come back from the IL. And think about this. Witt Jr. has already played 408 career games in 3 seasons, and he's 24 years old. Luis Robert Jr. is 26. He debuted in 2020, and he's only played in 413 career games. That's what I'm talking about. The Sox need a guy that they can plug into the lineup who can be the foundational piece and play 150-plus games, and you don't ever have to worry about he's going to go on the IL. And you could say, well, they have that in Colson Montgomery, and he might be that guy. But he's hitting 217 at AAA. Witt Jr. hit 285 in AAA in 2021, and he was 21 when he did that. And I'm not trying to comp the two, but I'm just saying Witt Jr. consistently gave hope that he was going to become a stud. Montgomery is showing that he might be nothing more than Paul DeYoung, a guy who's going to hit for power and not much else. And that means, again, the Sox are going to have to leverage their best assets in Crochet or LRJ to get that impact player because they're the ones that are going to be able to get the value to get that player since the Sox went with pitching in the first round. Now let's get to my second thing that became abundantly clear, that the Sox are probably going to lose 80 games before they win 30. The Sox are 3-12 in July, and they're in the middle of a 7-game losing streak. The only thing that has been good so far in this entire month has been the starting pitching. The lack of offense right now, the Sox have yet to score more than 5 runs during this losing streak, is giving the Sox this infamous opportunity to reach 80 losses before they win 3 more games to get to 30. And that is how bad things are going right now, that there's a better chance that they're going to get to 100 losses than they're going to get to 40 wins. And their magic number to avoid the Tigers matching the 162 streak is 16. They got to get to 16 wins just to avoid topping the 2003 Detroit Tigers. All right, Drew Thorpe, though. He was brilliant yesterday. Struck out, he had 6 strong innings of shutout ball, struck out 5, walked 2, allowed 3 hits, and he keeps pitching great. According to Chicago Sun-Times beat reporter Daryl Van Schouwen, he had this in his write-up. In 5 consecutive starts, he has allowed 2 runs or fewer and 3 hits or fewer. He's the first pitcher to achieve such a streak since Corbin Burns' 5-start run from July 1st to July 25th, 2023 with the Brewers. Now, that's some good company to be compared to. Now, granted, he doesn't have the fastball that Burns has, but Thorpe has been great at mixing in, getting able to locate his fastball that doesn't have a ton of velocity or movement, but if he can locate it, that sets up that deadly changeup and the rest of his secondary stuff. And he's made 7 starts now, and he only has had 1 awful start. So if the Sox trade Crochet, they might have cover at the top of the rotation with Thorpe as he continues to pass every test. Jonathan Cannon, he was all right on Saturday, gave up 4 runs in 6 innings. But the Royals got those 4 runs in the first 2 innings, and he settled down after that. So he's also looking like a solid starter there. So at least there's hope that the Sox have 2 starters that they can move forward with. Tommy Pham has been linked to the Royals, and he played like he was showcasing himself. 5 for 13 with 2 doubles, an RBI, and a run. Chris Flexen, though, was not able to escape jams like he's been able to recently. He's going to get himself into jams, but he's been really good at getting out. But on Friday, 4 2/3 innings, 7 earned runs, 5 walks, and a homer. Seriously, though, why is Pham and Flexen still on this team? Pham is only going to yield a prospect much like he did last year that the Mets got him, a young prospect with high potential. And there's 3 names that I want you to pay attention to that the Royals have. They got a great catcher, a very young catcher in Ramon Ramirez, although that's maybe the pipe dream according to Kings of Kaufman's guys. He's a 13th rated prospect, but in my jump to conclusions, Matt, that's what the Mets basically ended up with. They got a prospect who was very young who ended up being their 13th best prospect. So if I'm Chris Getz, I'm going to argue, just give me that guy right now. But that might be tough. Probably more likely you got Daniel Vasquez and pitcher Luinder Avila. They're in the lower of their top 30. But these are guys that the Royals should not think twice about by saying, here, I'll take a rental. And the Sox, I just get this feeling that they're trying to bundle Flexen and Pham with, say, Crochet or LRJ, or they're just delusional and think that those two can yield hitting prospects with high potential close to the big leagues. But every time Chris Flexen goes out there, there's a great chance that his trade value could decline. And I'm not saying Chris Flexen is going to get you a great prospect, but a contender could use him in long relief and also to help start, say, in September. He still has some value, but every chance that they're out there diminishes. And I know teams are holding their cards to the vest and they're not willing to put a lot of money into the pot, the proverbial pot, but get these guys off the team. Make these trades now. At least trade to Young, Pham, and Flexen, please. Well, speaking of trades, Bob Nightingale's weekly column in the USA Today was out yesterday. Had some nuggets on Sox trade rumors that I want to discuss next. Locked On White Sox. If picking more or less is your selection skill, then you should try out Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the excitement and win up to 100 times your cash with the summer games on Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, you can earn $10. You can turn $10 into $1,000 while watching Team USA rack up the gold medals this summer. You can make Prize Picks lineup of players across basketball, soccer, tennis, golf, and more in as little as 60 seconds. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you're locked in. And Prize Picks has good more or less for tonight's game against the Texas Rangers. Luis Robert Jr., 0.5 to hit a home run. And maybe pair that up with, say, Erick Fedde and Michael Lorenzen, 0.5 on first inning runs allowed. Download the Prize Picks apps today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for a deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. And passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your #1 ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. And with all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. And are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the White Sox start a 4-game road series against the Texas Rangers tonight. The first pitch is at 7:05 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. And thank you for making the show your first listen. Again, lots of great White Sox podcasts out there. Just ask that you make me your first listen. I got no problem being in your rotation. Just make me #1, please. All right, with how much Bob Nightingale keeps reporting that the Sox are going to trade Garrett Crochet, you can basically take it to the bank. The White Sox are highly likely to move him as long as their price is met. Bob is connected to the Sox ownership in the front office. They really like him at 35th and Shields. He's kind of their go-to leak guy. And the biggest tidbit is you and I finally got a team that is tied to Erick Fedde, and it is the St. Louis Cardinals. So I'll discuss Bob Nightingale's nugget and then what the Sox might get for Fedde. But here are the 4 things Bob has to say about Crochet's trade market. All right, this is from his piece yesterday on USA Today. There's no Justin Verlander-type pitcher on the market unless the Detroit Tigers are out of their minds and trade Cy Young contender Tarik Skubal. There's no Juan Soto-type impact hitter on the market unless the Toronto Blue Jays have a change of heart and trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There still may be plenty of trades in the next week, but precious little sizzle. The best pitcher expected to be dealt will be the White Sox ace, Garrett Crochet. And the most concern surrounding a player will be Garrett Crochet. And if you're not been really paying attention, you've been checking out, but somewhat checking in. The biggest issue with Garrett Crochet is those innings limit. This is his first year as a starter. He's never pitched this many innings, so there's probably a talk of he's probably going to get winded down as the season goes on. So teams are basically, in essence, going to be acquiring I would say, a high leverage reliever, unless they ramp him back up for October to start, and then they'll have a future ace for 2 more seasons. So what's the cost of that is the biggest thing. Bob does have the Yankees, Dodgers, and Mariners and Padres being the most aggressive teams. And those are 3 teams that have been linked to Crochet, and the Mariners have been tied to LRJ. But this is what Bob adds when it comes to the Crochet market. The Yankees, for the first time, are willing to include number 1 prospect Spencer Jones in a trade for the White Sox ace Garrett Crochet or Tiger Cy Young candidate Tarek Skubal. The White Sox, however, are holding out for a bigger package from the Yankees and others. The Los Angeles Dodgers have spoken to the White Sox about a blockbuster that would include Crochet, center fielder Luis Robert, and perhaps reliever Michael Kopech too. The Detroit Tigers are engaged in talks with the Baltimore Orioles and Dodgers for Skubal. It's a long shot that Skubal will be traded, but the Tigers are listening and have told teams that they will move him only if they are overwhelmed by an offer. Certainly, the Orioles have talented prospects to pull off a deal, centering around Jackson Holliday, and may become the World Series favorites if they acquire Skubal to team with Corbin Burns at the top of the rotation. All right, so first of all, this is the first time I've ever seen Jackson Holliday's name thrown out being tied to a trade. And you might be saying, why is the number 1 prospect not being tied to Garrett Crochet? Well, Tarek Skubal, if he's out there and available, is probably the better pitcher available than Garrett Crochet, just because he's a for sure starter, and he's probably the leading AL Cy Young contender. Crochet will probably get votes. He might even be coming in second. But Skubal is your lead guy in the he's your lead guy in the house right now. And it also sounds like the Yankees are finally willing to part with their sacred cow in Spencer Jones. And look, I would love for the Sox to get Spencer Jones. I like a lot about him. But the Yankees act like this guy is Bernie Williams and Derek Jeter wrapped into one. Like he's the sacred cow that they must have. And for a team like the Yankees that can just spend to cover up anything that they miss, they should be willing to trade whoever. But the other reason why I bring up Skubal's market is if he's on the market, and again, the top pitcher available, and the Orioles want him, that is taking the best team that matches up for the Sox, for the White Sox needs, off the table. Because again, they have the hitting prospects that could be stud impact players, almost like Bobby Witt Jr. I don't know if they have the fielding prospects like Bobby Witt or the ability to run like him, but like Colby Mayo, that's a guy that could be your third baseman for a decade. And say he goes to Detroit, that's a guy that you're going to have to face for a decade. All right, and then this is what basically it's a quick sentence that Bob said about Erick Fedde. The St. Louis Cardinals have strong interest in White Sox veteran starter Erick Fedde. And I was texting with Locked On Cardinals host JD Hafferon over the weekend. And here's some names he threw out that would make sense for the Cards to give up to get Fedde. Now, this is from his perspective. And this is from what the Cardinals' perspective is. And you got to remember, it takes 2 to make a deal. He first puts out Reclamation Project and Dylan Carlson. He's still 25. Though I'm not a fan of his career year numbers in 2021, just 18 homers and a 780 OPS. I mean, a lot of talent there, but he's already put up a career year, and it wasn't even that great. Cesar Pietro, he's the Cards' number 18 prospect. An infielder who has a 302 average at AAA with an 838 OPS and 12 dingers. Okay, I'm interested. Although he's 25. But hey, in White Sox prospect years, that's like 21. And the White Sox tend to go old on their prospects. But hey, a guy with who can hit and has a good OPS to match it up and a little bit of power, I could be intrigued. He then threw out 3 pitchers and Zach Thompson, who is their number 26 prospect. He's made some big league appearances. Gordon Graceffo, hopefully pronounce that name right. He's the Cardinals' number 9 prospect, a righty who is 24, and Adam Kloffenstein, he is 23, and he's their number 16 prospect. And I'm sorry, Zach Thompson is 26. He's not their 26th ranked prospect. But those are, young pitchers that have some big league experience. Not exactly thrilling names, but the Sox could leverage, say, Pietro, Kaufenstein, and Graceful for Fedde, because I would like to see the Sox get 3 pieces for Fedde. I know he's in his early 30s, but he's still under club control, and he's probably the second or third best second or third best starter available on the market. So the Sox should be able to leverage that seller's market for, say, I would say 3 top 30 prospects. And again, you in this case, you'd be getting the number 9, the number 16, and let's say the number 18 prospect. I think that's a fair trade. And yes, it's more pitching, but again, the Sox do not spend on pitching. So use draft capital and trade capital to get more pitching. And especially if some of these guys, even if these guys just turn out to be bullpen arms, it's the best allocation of assets then for the Sox, because they shouldn't be spending any money on their bullpen anymore. They spent way too much money in the last rebuild, and that's one of the reasons why it's sunk. All right, well, speaking of prospects, it is Monday, so let's do a minor league Monday report next on Locked On White Sox. I love sports. I love them so much. I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games, and the sports aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. And maybe this is the game Eloy Jimenez puts the ball in the air. And if you want to play him hitting a homer, it is at plus 480. That's plus 480. You think Erick Fedde is going to get more than 4.5 strikeouts? That's where the line is set at. It's at plus 100 on that action. You can even play the first pitch result from the 2nd to the 8th inning. The any other out/outcome for the top of the 2nd, that's at plus 900. And the Sox tend not to be patient hitters. Just saying, hey, play FanDuel how you want to play it, because what is really great about FanDuel is all those props and parlays that you can pick from. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And the White Sox start a 4-game road series against the Texas Rangers tonight. First pitch is at 7:05 p.m. Central. Catch every pitch of the White Sox hometown broadcast with SiriusXM on the SXM app. Search White Sox. And welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. And thank you for sticking with me, especially to your everydayers. Love you guys. Love the community we have on YouTube. Got a question out there for you. Again, what's going to happen first? Are the Sox going to lose 80 games or win 30 games? They just got to get 3 wins, but I have a feeling they're going to lose. I think they're at 74 losses. I think they're going to lose 80 games before they get to 30 wins. It's just been a long season. But where there's tragedy, there's hope somewhere, and the hope is in the minor league system. And every Monday, I like to do a minor league Monday report. So some follow-up from last week's draft. James Fox, managing editor of Future Sox, friend of the show, he had this tweet out at James Fox 917. The White Sox have signed 16 of their 21 draft picks, and they've committed about 2.078 million of the pool so far. That means they can spend 13.244 million on their top 4 picks, and I'm expecting them to all overslot at this point. Based on the remaining bonuses, bonus pool space for the hashtag White Sox, these are my guesses on the remaining signings. Left-handed pitcher Hagen Smith, $8 million. Shortstop Caleb Bomer, $2.8 million. Left-handed pitcher Blake Larson, $1.4 million. And outfielder Nick McLean, $1 million. And that's what he had. Again, check him out at James Fox 917 or futuresox.net. And the day 2 of that draft did seem a little bit underwhelming, but there appears to be a method to the madness, as the picks that matter, rounds 1 through 3, the Sox wanted to make sure they could have the money to get those guys in the fold. And I believe it was Josh Nelson, who was on 670 The Score from Sox Machine, who was saying that Nick Shirley really railed against NIL, basically was saying how hard it is now to sign a lot of guys because they could just be like, look, I'll go back and play my senior year. I'll go, the high school, I'll go to college. And I'll probably at least make, I don't know if I'll make 8 million, or especially if you're in rounds 4 through 20, you might make more than you'll get in your signing bonus. So they might have to leverage that. So the Sox probably are going to have to overslot Smith and Bomer. And Larson already said, I had that on the show last week. Larson said he's signing, but he wants 1.4 million. And it's important to get Smith and Bomer, hopefully I'm pronouncing his name right, signed, as the Sox are likely to trade Crochet. And Smith projects to basically be Crochet's replacement. And Bomer has work to do, obviously, but he's got upside to mitigate maybe passing on Connor Griffin. I talked about how Sox need an impact bat. Could have had that. Not saying that Hagen Smith is a bad pick. I like the process. I like that they're developing pitching. And, again, if they're going to try to mimic the Royals, don't. Even the Kings of Kaufman guys said, do your own thing. But B, you don't pay for pitching, so draft it. I get it. It just means get these guys in the fold as quickly as possible. All right, so some other news in terms of the minor leagues. Noah Schultz, Sox top pitching prospect, made his traditional Saturday 4-inning start at AA Birmingham. 4 innings where he gave up no runs or hits, walked 2, struck out none. Just a ho-hum start for Schultz. Again, I would not expect to see him at the big league level this year. The hope is maybe he's ready to go in 2025, some point mid 2025. It'd be great to see Smith and Schultz make their debuts in 2025. So then that way you can get that really stud starting rotation. I mean, think about it. You could have Thorpe, Schultz, Cannon, Smith. Hoo boy. And then mix in, again, Mason Adams, Nick Nastarini, Kai Bush, or Jairo Iriarte. And he bounced back from a terrible start on July 1st. He pitched the other game in the doubleheader for the AA Birmingham Barons on Saturday. 5 innings of no hits or runs. Hit a batter, walked another, struck out 6. Jake Etter, he's a guy that might compete for a starting rotation spot next year. Made his debut at AAA Charlotte yesterday, and it was bad. 2 innings, 6 hits, 8 runs with 6 earned, 2 walks, 2 Ks. Excuse me one moment. Sort of shaking off this ear infection / cold. Almost getting there, guys. But I just got to ask, why is he at Charlotte, one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks? I get he was called up last week to provide some cover in that doubleheader against the Twins, but he should have went back to AA because he's technically does not need to be parking lotted yet. Because what I like about what the White Sox are doing is they're developing their pitchers at AA, which makes sense because you have a very hitter-friendly ballpark at AAA. AAA should be then your parking lot where you don't have a spot for a guy or you have your depth. That's where Touki Toussaint should be pitching. AA is still the development ground, and Etter's he's done all right this season, but there's still a little bit of way for him to go, so he should have been back at AA. I know, I'm splitting hairs there. Mason Adams pitched for the first time in a couple weeks yesterday for the Barons, 5 innings where he gave up 3 runs and 5 hits. Not much to say about the hitting as all the teams returned from break, so they started their first series over the weekend, although Colson Montgomery, the Sox top prospect, did go 3 for 5 during Saturday's doubleheader with AAA Gwinnett, and he had a homer. So, again, I can't get a grasp on him. I think his floor is Paul DeYoung, and I hate to scare everybody, but hey, it's a power hitter. On the flip side, though, you want him to be like Bobby Witt Jr. in terms of his bat. I don't think he's going to have the defense like Bobby Witt or the base running, but you want a stud hitter that can anchor the lineup for years to come. And he just hasn't given us that clear picture that he can be that guy. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. But before I go, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest sports stories without all that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss some more White Sox baseball. Feel free to leave comments about today's topics regarding 5 things that are clear after the Sox were swept by the Royals, Bob Nightingale's recent updates on the Sox trade rumors, and the Minor League Monday report. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at Todd J. Dubb, or at Locked On Sox, or email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. Talk to you tomorrow.